Awesome. Okay. So Gretchen, I am again so delighted and flattered and grateful that you said yes to this interview today. Um, and so maybe I'll just set the scene a little bit. So Gretchen has been a client. She went through Fat Burning Pro Extended, our longer version, 13 weeks. Um, and I grew up with Gretchen. We swam together. We went to high school together. We're a year apart. And I'll have her tell more of the story in terms of what got us reconnected. But anyway, so we are familiar with each other, less so in our adult life. And but anyway, so that's a little bit of our background. Um, and then so I'll just jump in with questions, Gretchen, if that sounds good.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Awesome. So number one, so I asked these same five questions to everyone. What was life like before Fat Burning Pro extended?
Sure. So I would say for most of my adult life, I have struggled with weight. It was one of those things where, high school, college, and even a little post-college, never really had to think about it. I was always pretty active with, yeah, swimming or softball or just, walking around campus or whatever. But it was really kind of that, oh, got my first job. It was a desk job, not moving around as much. I think, kind of started, but I didn't change maybe my eating or, add any more activity or anything. So started to see some weight gain kind of slowly over time. But I, over the years, I would say over the last 20 plus years, would make times where I would do either a fad diet, I would do, kind of the extreme low carb thing or extreme low calorie thing, and of course I'd lose some weight and then of course immediately gain it back once I stopped, once it became too much of like a deprivation type of diet, not sustainable in any sense. Then I went through a stretch, like I had three children. And after my third child, I made an effort to really get back into exercise and activity. And I really, for probably a good almost 10 years, did some pretty extreme exercising in terms of, in a healthy way, a lot of kickboxing. I was doing triathlons. I was doing all the crazy, mud runs and obstacle races and 5Ks, like anything I could get my hands on. And that was fantastic. But there were days where I was working out 2 to 3 hours a day and probably not eating nearly enough to sustain that. So I was probably at one of my lowest weights, like since high school, probably going through all that. And of course, keeping up with three little kids at the time too. So that helped keep me active just kind of naturally. But that too wasn't sustainable. And then when my youngest went into school, I went back to work full time. So again, back at that desk job where I didn't have the time to certainly exercise as much as I had been. So again, started to see that weight gain kind of creep back in again. And again, even over the last, say, 9 years or so, almost 10 years since I've been kind of back at work full time, I've seen some yo-yo dieting, some kind of ups and downs over those years. And of course, COVID, like everybody, having to be at home and
Yep.
going through all of that. And we absolutely as a family did the like, let's make cookies every day. And, because we're here and we can, why not? And there's nothing else to do. So there was just a lot of kind of like bad habits that crept in too during that time. And then again, kind of made a concerted effort maybe 2, 3 years ago to, all right, stop that and get back to kind of eating normally, getting some more activity involved. And then I would say in the last year to 18 months is really when I started just feeling like, ugh, like I'm just not feeling good anymore. And getting into my later 40s, I was finding that some of the same things I used to do even 5 years ago, but certainly not like say back in my 20s or early 30s was working. Like the same methods I was using back then were not working now. And I think in my head, I was blaming that on my age and, oh, I'm hitting perimenopause and all those things, right? And that's all you hear is that, oh, as you get older and get into perimenopause, it's impossible to lose weight or you start gaining it in areas that maybe I hadn't gained it in before. Um, So yeah, so then also at that same time, and just tired a lot, getting definitely the afternoon slumps, wanting to go to bed at like 7:30 at night. Like I never did, but I felt like I could have. I was that tired. And definitely drinking a lot of coffee, probably 3 cups a day at least. And whether that was helping or not, I'm not sure, but felt like I needed to kind of stay awake. And around that same time, though, is when I think you and I reconnected on Facebook, or I don't know if I friended you or vice versa, but probably in the last year. And so I've been following you on Facebook and kind of seeing your posts with the other clients that you've had, and of course recognizing some of these faces too. Some other of our old high school friends who are in there as well. And watching their interviews and hearing their stories and thinking, oh my gosh, like I can totally relate to that. Busy moms of three, with kids who are super duper active and, work full time and just don't have time or take time for themselves.
Actually, Gretchen, so I'll interrupt you as you're like queuing up the next question.
Yeah.
And so I'll just also kind of reiterate. So it sounds like the thing, so in many respects, like, so this has been either like a focus or a bit of a struggle kind of through
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
But that like you were able to kind of like manage it with just a lot of work. So like doing more extreme exercise, maybe even like more extreme kind of eating regarding either
Mhm.
carbohydrates or less calories. But it sounded like in the last few years that things are like the game has just changed.
Yes.
And you said that, and I think a lot of women hear that it's kind of like, perimenopause is like this death knell, gaining weight where you didn't gain it before, and that there's not a lot that you can do about it.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'll also ask, like, and we'll talk like at the end in terms of like specifics, like where were you then? Where were you now?
Mhm.
But was that something like, had weight just kind of been like slowly building? Were you kind of like at a tipping point? I know you said, you weren't feeling good, you were tired. Um,
Mhm.
like were you at a weight that also just felt like, this is not working for me?
Mhm. Yeah, all of the above, I would say. I mean, it's one of those things like looking back, it felt like it was a slow creep, I think, but really, if I think about it, I think about like just like my eating habits were probably terrible. And I think I definitely had a like whatever kind of moments, like,
Yeah.
well, I guess if I can't lose the weight, I might as well enjoy and eat what I want to eat, and it's just sort of I was having those moments of like, well, all these people have such body positivity, and maybe I can just be happy at this weight and maybe that's okay. And really, no, there was this little thing in the back of my head going, Gretchen, you're not happy here. It's not where you want to be. You can be somewhere else and you're happier at a different weight, a different body structure, so I would kind of yo-yo between those thoughts too. And
Yep.
ultimately, I knew I was not happy where I was, and I wanted to be back to where I knew I felt better, where my body felt better, I felt healthier, um, and just generally, yeah, just better mood, everything really. So yeah.
Makes sense. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
And so with that, you've started already answering this question, which is
Sorry, yeah.
perfect, because that there is a progression here. What made you reach out to me specifically?
Yeah, so again, I think I just finally had enough. And again, like sort of right around that same time is when I started to see the videos of, again, these lovely women who I recognized from high
Yeah.
school. And I had one of whom I had sort of reconnected with recently because our daughters play the same sport. So, hearing her story and hearing about the struggles that she's had, and again, very similar, we're in the same age range. And it just went, wow. And she just made it sound so easy and effortless and like, wow, this was the thing that finally clicked, that I think I can sustain this now. It's not going to be that kind of yo-yo dieting or exercising or whatever. So that is, yeah, ultimately what I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to send Michaela a message and just kind of get the ball rolling. Like, let's have a conversation. And I think before we even probably said two words to each other. Like I knew, like I was going to do this. Like I just knew. Like, I don't think there was much you probably could have told me that I would have been like, no, I was just so ready. Like I
Uh,
was beyond ready to start something new and try it. So
that well, I'll say like, so we all need to be like some sort of like tipping point to like do something different. But I think the fact that like um you knew people, you saw Brooke, like, kind of seeing her change, hearing about her stuff, watching, her video, her interview. Um, and then I think what the statement that you just made about it being easy, it being kind of like sustainable, I feel like that I think is what deters most people from adopting a new lifestyle or approach to weight loss. And so that makes all the sense in the world. Like A, to see kind of proof, B, to trust the person that is embodying it. And then C, I think for them to reflect back that it's like, this was actually kind of easy to do and easy to keep doing, rather than, something that's extreme and temporary, which takes, I'll say, a lot of energy as well. And so I think for, one thing I recognize that, um, this entire process, and we'll talk about that in just a second, um, it's an investment, but it's also an investment in like time and focus. And I feel like, you said, another Brooke, busy mom of four. It's just like you're a busy mom of three. There's not a lot of extra time in the day. So I think that it makes sense if you kind of see something that looks either desirable or reasonable, and they kind of fit how you have to operate too. I think that makes sense that it would get your attention as well.
absolutely. And I think to the fact that your focus is on women at our age, like I'm 40 plus, that was super appealing to me as well. Because again, oftentimes if you just look online or, see other people talking about how easy it was to lose weight, and you look in and they're like 30 years old, like that's not going to work for me, like, because I know I was very different. Again, I talked about that, like things that worked for me in my 20s and 30s were not working for me in my 40s. And so knowing that this was, I'm certainly a program that would work for anybody. However, you particularly are focusing on women who are 40 plus, who are busy and kind of similar stages of life. That was super appealing too, because I was like, all right, yes, this is what I need, something that's really focused on me. Like I can relate, like so few times I think can you feel like that, when you see these like even weight loss success stories, whether it's in People magazine or, the Washington Post, like it doesn't matter. Like I think it just always is like, oh, well, that person has something a little bit different from me, so that may not work for me, well, that's why they were successful, but this just was, yeah, super appealing that I was like, yep, I can relate. Like if they could do it, I can do it, like there's no excuse. I can't be like, oh, well, they're 30, like, nope. Brooke's 48, like she's only a year younger than me, right? So that definitely, was appealing for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'll just like celebrate that attitude as well. Like that will serve you, in my opinion, forever. It's like if
Mm.
they can have it, I can have it. And so I think that just kind of speaks to the logic of the body, and also like you kind of looking beyond that kind of cultural accepted attitude about, the limitations of what happens with women's bodies like once we start or go through perimenopause. And it's like there are considerations, but it's not the end of the story. So I just love that, that you have this level mindedness and openness to, recognizing that it's like Brooke is not so far from me. And,
Mhm.
and just staying focused on what you want. That's really useful, clearly.
Yeah.
So Gretchen, number three. So how was the process of your fat burning pro extended? So there's kind of a few, so both like how did it feel? How was, you know, getting the information, doing the thing, like how was the whole, I guess, experience really? But it's almost like
Mhm.
how was it for your body and how was it for you almost as like a student?
Yeah. And I think I would tell you this almost every week when we would talk is I just you explain things so well. And
Mm,
I appreciate that. And it because there is, I mean, there's so much science and biology behind it, but you kind of break it down. You've done all the research for us, you've done all the kind of experimentation, and then the way you kind of relay it to us is just easy. It just makes it go, oh, yeah, duh. Like, how didn't I think of that? Like that makes so much sense, the way you explain it. So I will say from day one, again, even that very first Zoom call that you and I had just to kind of get some preliminary information and the way you explain things, it made me like even more convinced that this is what I want to
mm,
do. Because I thought, geez, that does make a lot of sense. Like, this has got to work. So yeah, from that point on, I would say, and certainly like the app that you give us with the different articles and just little tips and like what to expect. And I would go back and reference that sometimes, especially like on, when we did, I don't know, even like, okay, when we started having like the fat burning meals and all right, well, what can I have? And what are some good ways to, kind of craft that meal for that day? And just going back and kind of referencing those things too. So easy at your fingertips. Found that super easy.
awesome.
In terms of my body, I mean, I would say when I started, I mean, the first couple of days, as you know, were a little bit rough, as I know a lot of people do, because you're essentially detoxing your body. So I think I started on a Friday, and I would say through that weekend, I felt kind of sick almost, flu-like. But you had sort of warned me about that too and said, no, this is a possibility. Some people have different reactions based on, what their body looks like when they start. So it wasn't alarming or anything like that. I kind of knew that was probably, and I was very happy. I will say that I started on a Friday, so I kind of had that weekend to just, we didn't
Mm-hmm.
have anything going on, it was fine. I was able to kind of lay low. And then I want to say it was like Monday morning, maybe Tuesday morning. It was like I woke up and just like, like wow, like my body just already felt so much better. Just kind of getting through those first couple of days of that kind of detoxification and I had more energy already. Headaches had gone because I did have some headaches just for those first couple of days. And I think I was thinking, well, it's probably from lack of caffeine because again, I was drinking a lot of coffee kind of right up until that point. So, but no headaches, had energy, didn't feel as hungry. I mean, I was shocked at how quickly that kind of, started working basically. And honestly, it's been fairly easy, even just from that point on, and having those transitions from the, two shakes and a meal a day to one shake and a meal to now for the last several weeks, just the one meal a day. And I mean, again, it's one of those things like you talk about it, I would listen, it would make sense. But again, I think it's a little bit in the back of my head of like, is this really going to work? Am I really going to be able to survive on one meal a day? And sure enough, it's 100% I can survive on one meal a day, very comfortably and easily. And you helping with having the little tricks, to help you kind of get through. And I think again, you giving us that um, kind of warning is probably the wrong word, but to that heads up that like, hey, these are the things you can do when you start feeling a little hungry, try this first. And it was just such an easy roadmap, I think, to
Mm.
follow. And it flew by, honestly, the 13 or 14 weeks that we worked together, like that time just flew by. And just kind of kept chugging along and my body reacted beautifully because I was starting to see results immediately, even after that rough weekend. I mean, I was already dropping weight and that of course is a little bit of a motivator, of course, is like, woohoo, all right, like, I'm gonna keep this going. I'm not gonna mess this up, like
Yep.
this is great. So that definitely kind of kept me going too. And I was again just shocked at where I had been and again my age and things that I had tried in the fairly recent past, was not working. And now all of a sudden doing this was absolutely seeing like amazing results. So yeah, so that was a very long-winded answer, but there you
Really.
go.
No, that is so good. And I think that what do I want to say? Well, I like the reason why I'm such an evangelist about this is because it's like once we get situated, then we can just go. And so, and it's like, obviously I'm watching you and making sure like, you feel okay. And if you don't, like, let's try this and how about that? Like you said, tools. And then like knowing when to use them and um hearing your body more clearly and understanding what that means. I think that's something I value so much about this process that I think in typical diet culture, it's like ignore, override, like, and this, we do the very opposite. And I just feel like you did such a great job of, keeping me on the pulse of where you were. And then also, following what was requested, instructions, and then what else was I going to say? And then just like course correcting, like I think there was like one misstep. And that's, I think also like a beautiful thing about this process is that it's really like it's an experience, it's an education, it's a transformation, it's an experiment. Like, and so I think that and I just love that you kept me so abreast of like what you were doing and what was important to you. And I think that that's the way to keep anything forever. It's like if it can match what is going on in your life and what you really care about, it's like, well, then why would we ever deviate from this?
Mhm.
Gretchen, I wanted to ask you also, just kind of specifically, I wanted to ask you about carb feasts
Mhm.
and how that was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm eating this, or like how this works in your life. Like, just, generally we don't think about carbohydrates and feasting when we're losing weight. Um, and then I wanted to ask you about, so part of your program, part of Gretchen's program incorporated this mini program that's called the Boost. And so this is, I wish for everyone to learn this skill of slightly longer fasting. Because of how much it does in terms of speeding up weight loss. Like we do it when it's safe, we do it when the person is capable. And then once again, it's like tools, signals, communication. Um, uh, but anyway, it's such a beneficial thing for speeding up weight loss, slowing aging. Like fasting is kind of considered like an anti-cancer diet. Um, but it's just such a useful tool. And so I added it into the longer version, and Gretchen took advantage of that, which like with everybody, not on a slightly later timeline, which was perfect. And so I'm just kind of curious about those two extreme things, which most people either wouldn't assume go along with weight loss or would think could be a little compromising for a body.
Mhm. Yeah, no. Yeah, and again, that's one of those things that I think you explained so beautifully in the beginning. Like, well, here's why we do it. Here's why it's important. I won't even try to say it because you'll say it much, much more eloquently than I could. But and I also was surprised at how soon into the program I was already having like my first carb feast. I was like, really? So yeah, but that was the one where I think I overdid it, but it was a perfect learning experiment,
Yep.
learning experience for me. And I don't think I realized like how full I would get as
Yep.
fast as I
Yep.
did. And I just kept like eating, probably
Yep.
like some old habits, like whatever, it just tastes so good. So I'm just going to keep going. And then I felt like horrible that night, like full, just bloated and gross and everything. And we talked about it the next day or maybe even that night. And you were like, yeah, well, great. Now you kind of know, like, listening to your body is super important. And, also knowing that it's not like you're never going to have that BLT again or those French fries or whatever I had that night. Have another carb feast. And so don't look at it as like, oh, this is an all or nothing kind of thing. Like I've got to eat all this food right now because I'll never have it again. And that's not the case.
Yep.
So after that first time, I've been much smarter about them, kind of all the way through now. And, just eating more slowly too, slowing down is definitely something that I've
So
kind of
helpful.
really glommed onto, which has been great.
Helpful.
Having, yeah, like again, listening to my body is huge. That's been such a bonus that's come from this program too, being able to really cue into, what I'm feeling, whether it's fullness or not, maybe quite full enough and having a little bit more. Um, And knowing how to course correct too, I think has been great with your guidance, of course, and knowing like what I can do to kind of maybe offset that. And things like even, having a good workout the next day after maybe a big carb feast or something. So
Yep.
yeah, utilizing that, like fantastic, like great. I can sort of plan that ahead. And yeah, and I have had in those 14 weeks, I had a couple of events, going to my nephew's wedding and going to a Patriots game where we were tailgating all day. And it was just so great to work with you to kind of figure out how that would work in. And I think one or maybe even both of them just happened to land on my carb feast anyway.
You had like the
Yeah.
golden like carb feast schedule. Like you
I don't
definitely
know.
all of your big
Not sure how
events
that worked. Yeah, I think my
magically.
daughter's birthday. Yeah, it just was like, wow, all right, that just happened to work out. But I think there was definitely one thing in there where like we just kind of adjusted. I think it maybe was going to come a day early. So you gave me some great guidance on like, all right, well, then you can bump it, okay, you go light the day before, do whatever, just eat a little bit later, knowing that you're going to have kind of this bigger carb feast the next day. Like the tailgating, for instance, because that was definitely going to be and was a longer period of time where I was eating carbs, not just in like a 1 or 2 hour window. But yeah, it worked beautifully. And, I felt good and I felt like I still enjoying this thing that I do with my girlfriends every year and, enjoying their company and not feeling like I was
Hmm.
missing out on the fun and the drinking and the tailgating food and all that stuff. And I, of course, has always had a blast and, was able to enjoy that. And then, kind of was right back in it the next day though, and it didn't, I've never once like wanted to give up. Like it really has been, and I do think it's the carb feast, honestly, that kind of like not keep you going, but sort of go, okay, well, I know I can have that in a couple of days, or, I'm feeling full, like I'm not feeling hungry. And yeah, I really do think that just knowing that this program is so well structured, it just makes you want to keep going and do it the right way and not give up. I've never, knock on wood, I have not had that moment yet where I've been like, forget it. Like, this is too much. I'm giving up. Like, I can't do it. I'm too hungry. Because it's just, I've come too far. I've worked too hard, the results are happening, like,
Yeah,
why wouldn't I keep doing this, So,
totally.
um,
Totally.
oh, and you asked about the fasting then too. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, that was not bad. And actually that too coincided beautifully with, I think we started the boost like the day after that tailgate. So I
Hmm.
was quite full or feeling very like that first round of fasting was fine for me. I think I made it 48 hours, no problem. And then even the next, so I think we did like what, say 4 within that like 2 week period, I think it worked out to be. Um, and I was able to go like between like 46 and 48 hours for each one of those. And pretty comfortably, I would say, because again, like, yeah, I would eat, say on like a, Sunday night and then not eat till lunch, whenever that would be, or no, dinner, I guess, like Tuesday night or something like that. And I never like felt deprived. Again, used kind of my tools. I made the fat bombs. I still haven't eaten them yet. I haven't felt the need to. So, but they're in there,
Amazing.
they're waiting
Mhm.
just in case. I would say there was one in there, like maybe the second or third one. I felt a little bit hungrier than maybe the other 3 in that 2 week period, but yeah, it was way easier than I thought it was going to be.
So cool.
Yeah, super, super easy. And I've even not during the boost had moments where just because of my schedule, I've gone like close to 30 hours, whether it's like I ate, lunch one day and then I wasn't going to eat again until dinner the next day. And that's been fine. Like that, I kind of knew then, like if I can do that, like probably these 48-hour ones won't be too bad considering, 8 hours of that I'll be sleeping,
Mhm.
so it made it that much easier, I think, too. And I was just sort of like almost shocked at my own body that I could do that, like 30 hours. Like, when's the last time ever in my life I probably went 30 hours, without eating something. So yeah, I was amazed at kind of what my body could do. And I've used it a few other times, even outside of, the boost and stuff too. So
That's so cool. And I'll just say, like, um, so the fact that it's both what you did for your body, like this process that you went through, this mitochondrial reconstruction that I've termed it. So basically, it's like we're fixing or rebuilding the energy producing unit of the cell to make using your own body fat for energy easy. And then it's like, we're supporting yourself detoxification wise. That supports fat metabolism. It's like we're keeping carbohydrates lower in general, which helps with using your own body fat. It's like the longer you do this, the better you get, the like dialing it down. It's like one thing I love and that I appreciate about the women that I get to work with is that uh it's like it tends to most most that I have worked with have tried everything. So it's like they've tried intermittent fasting, like you said, I tried hardcore keto. And it's like all of those things are useful, but it's like when the body is ready. And so the fact that we just get you solid and then we just keep adjusting the dial, it keeps you capable of the next request, and it keeps you comfortable. And so what's so exciting, you're like, again, you are in the same place as everyone else, including myself, who was someone who ate multiple times a day, who had Cliff Bars in my bag at all times, would get like hangry when I got hungry, to going to eating once a day, or to fast for like, I fasted for like 42 hours like the other day because it made sense. And I think that it's like people have no idea, including ourselves, what it will be like when you're actually capable. But the thing that's so cool is that, like, when we go through this mitochondrial reconstruction, this process, it's like we put the horse in front of the cart. And then it's like, oh, this feels easy. Like popcorn is always going to be delicious. Like pizza is always delicious. But if you're not hungry and if you're not craving it, you know that you can wait until Thursday when your carb feast is, or that you could even have, like, if you're eating once a day, it's like we can still make that work, like even if you want a little bit of it, because the longer you do this, the harder it is to gain weight. And so it's like you are naturally expending more calories simply because of the makeup of your body. And so anyway, so I love that it blows everyone's mind that it's like, this seems so crazy. I'm not going to eat for 48 hours. People say it's, like my sister-in-law calls intermittent fasting Are you starving yourself today? It's like, um, but it would feel like that if I was running on sugar. And so I just love that, to hear that reflection, the surprise that it felt so easy and that you've done it independently because it felt obvious and easy to do. That's really awesome. And I think that, what do I want to say? The jerk like statement I say at times, it's like, if you want to lose weight, don't eat. But it's like the way we make that possible is with all of this kind of grooming and, reinforcement and these like micro adjustments over time. And you've just done that so beautifully. Like, if you want to, like, who if we want to grade someone for following like all the instructions to a T, it's like I feel like you would be getting like the highest grade, Gretchen. um
I'm determined. I told you. I put my mind to something. Look out. Yeah.
no question, no question.
Yeah.
um well, so maybe next question with that. So with all of this now, this new reality, what is life like now?
It's great. I am not tired anymore. Not at the normal times anyway, not like in the afternoons and all that kind of stuff. Um, so much more energy. I would say, like, when I first describe this to people who don't know that I'm doing it this way or whatever, going through this program, I'm like, I always use the term, my energy is through the roof. Like, it really is. Like, I find, even like I've had those days where like maybe I didn't get as much sleep as I had wanted to for whatever reason. We were up late doing something fun, and we still had to get up early the next day. And before this program, I would have been a zombie all day, if I had only gotten like 5 hours of sleep or something like that. Whereas now like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm a little slow to get started, after that kind of shorter sleep period in the morning. But like once I get going, like it's incredible how much energy I have. And even just the other night when we were out late at my son's concert and we got very little sleep and then, had to drive home the next day for a couple of hours. And like my whole family just kind of crashed on the couch the next day. And I was like immediately like, I got to go food shopping. I'm going to do some laundry. I was doing the dishes. Like, let's get outside. Like, just, I was almost shocking myself. I'm like, how am I even doing this? Like, I thought I was going to have to crash on the couch all day too. Um, so just little things like that, I've been noticing, a big difference, or I think, oh, I'm going to be tired, tomorrow, and I'm not, and I have all this more energy, which is fantastic. I just like the way my body feels. And I've been losing weight in areas that have been difficult in the past, like in my stomach and my thighs and things like that. And like my clothes are just fitting beautifully. Like I'm having to tap into clothes I haven't been able to wear in years. And or buying new clothes, which is always fun too. And surprising myself at the sizes I'm fitting into. So that's been beautiful. And just, to be vain, it's nice to
Yes.
get those comments too. Like, people that I haven't seen in a while, whether it's my parents, or a coworker who I don't see as often, they'll be like, wow, Gretchen, like you look great, so clearly other people kind of noticing it too. And that's nice. It's a little booster. That's another motivation, like let alone the scale and what that's saying and kind of motivating me. But like knowing that other people are kind of noticing it too, it's like that's another motivator for me too, is I want that to match like how I'm feeling too, what the other people are seeing. And I'm definitely feeling much more comfortable in my own body, because
Awesome.
of this. So yeah.
That is great. I'll just ask, and maybe this is a leading question. um, does life feel a little easier because of this?
It
Um,
does. Yeah. I mean, for me, I mean, I think, yeah, there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I don't have to think about what I'm making, for a meal because I'm not having a meal for this, whatever day it is or something. Just little things like that. Definitely make it easier. And yeah, it's just such a good structure. I am definitely like a creature of habit and I like routine and stuff. So I like that, I get up and I make my coffee in the morning, kind of sip that slowly throughout the day. Like that's just my thing. And if I have a day where maybe that doesn't happen right away or not quite the same way, it's like, no, I want to get back to my routine, but I love that. But I also love that there is some flexibility in this program too. And I've definitely had to pivot depending on kind of our lives and the schedule at the moment. And but I know that that's okay, that I can adjust and kind of make it work no matter what's going on in my life. And I've also kind of learned to not care, like if if we are going out for a meal and I'm getting the salad, and be like, oh, why aren't you getting the whatever, fried this and that? And I'm like, well, because this is what I want to eat. And this is not a carb day for me. And this is comfortable. But yeah, I'm still here. I'm socializing with all of you. And, I feel great and I feel fine. This is what I want to do. Even I went out with a friend a couple weeks ago and she had suggested this like steakhouse or something. And so of course I looked up the menu first to see, I'm like, okay, well, steakhouse, I might be able to get like a little filet and some veggies and stuff. And no, like everything was smothered in this and fried in that and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm like, I can't do it because there was nothing. I felt like there was nothing on that menu I was going to be able to really adapt to meet my needs and it wasn't going to fall on a carb piece. So I suggested a different restaurant where I knew they had this like gorgeous salad that I love and, could eat healthily. And she's like, yeah, sure. And I know that there have been times where I've dieted in the past where I would have never said that. I would have just been like, all right, whatever, we'll just go to the steakhouse and I'll cheat that day, or I won't stick with, whatever my program was at that time. So I felt like I was like, all right, I'm proud of myself for being like, no,
mhm.
would you mind if we went somewhere else? And she was like, yeah, of course. And I explained why too. It wasn't even like, oh, I don't like your suggestion, but I was like, if you don't mind, I'd love to go to this restaurant. Instead, they have this great salad that I love and I'm doing this program now and it would really help me to like keep on track. Or I forget how I worded it, but she was like, yeah, absolutely. She's like, and I want to hear more about this program you're doing. So you can talk to me about it over dinner. So just little things like that. Like there were definitely moments again before this program where I would have caved, and I would have
Yeah.
just done the kind of like, oh, I had one bad meal. the whole weekend's shot. We just ate poorly all weekend instead of just like one meal. And that's not even like appealing to me now. If I even think about that, I was like, ew, like what? No, I wouldn't want to do that. I want to stick to this program, have my one carb feast and feel good about that. And that's fine. So yeah.
And
Yeah.
Gretchen, is that and is are you motivated to do that because of kind of like the payoff that you're getting, like both kind of like physically and like how you look and how you're feeling?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly why. Because I don't, yeah, I just know that like it's been working and I've been kind of sticking to the program and I don't want to kind of, yeah, like change that up at all really and kind of mess with it. So, but yeah, absolutely. I think I've had too much success and I don't want to go backwards. So yeah, that's the motivation for sure.
Awesome. I'll just say also there's another lovely lady that I hope to be interviewing soon, who's in her 70s, who's a mom of a fat burner, who's awesome. And she just spoke to me about like she has better boundaries now. And I feel like that's kind of what you're describing as well. Like that, you have freedom. There's so many choices that you are making deliberately for yourself, but that it sounds like it's easier to uphold boundaries for yourself that are in your better or best interest. And that's pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And even I think I had mentioned to you that even my husband, like he's obviously not doing the program, but he's kind of aligning his days. Like he's like, all right, I'll eat well. He's like, tell me when your carb feasts are, and then
Yep.
I'll do the same. We
Yep.
can both kind
Yep.
of like we can do pizza together. Or like that one night it was just the two of us and we got whatever we wanted, and that was kind of nice. And then he's like, all right, and then I'll quote, be good. Feel like he's kind of quasi, supporting me in that way too. I mean, he's obviously been supportive all along, but even with that, like, all right, I'm not going to sit here and eat pizza in front of you. I'll do it
Yep.
on a day when you can do it too. And honestly, though, that doesn't really bother me. I know I have some coworkers who are like, oh, how can you sit here and like not eat while we're all like stuffing our faces? I'm like, I can't explain it. I don't know. I don't, it doesn't bother me at all. Like I'd rather sit here and socialize with you guys and hang out than sit in my office by myself because I'm not eating.
Yep.
I don't have to lose that piece of things. Um, and I think that part has gotten easier certainly as the program kind of went on too. But not being tempted, not feeling like I'm missing out, anything like that. So that
That's
doesn't,
great.
yeah.
That's great. Um, Gretchen, would you recommend this program?
100%. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And I've definitely talked it up with some of my friends who have, again, kind of are in that same stage of life. They're trying different things. They're maybe working with a nutritionist or something. And, um, I definitely try to shout this from the rooftops as much as I can. And I think, something I think I had shared with you at one point is like pretty much every other time I've done any type of a diet, I've been very hesitant to talk about it, to other than like my immediate family, to friends and even like parents and sister and those kinds of things, because it was like embarrassing. I think like I didn't want to even admit that, I had to go on a diet, right? Or that I had to do something to kind of change my lifestyle. This one though, I'm like happy to talk about it as much as I possibly can when people, again, kind of started noticing that I must be doing something, I'm like, well, sit down, let me tell you all about it. This is what I'm doing. So yes, 100% I would recommend this for anyone.
That is so great.
Yeah.
Why do you think you feel a little more kind of like confident or prideful of this approach potentially than others?
It's a great question. I think that some of it's my age. I honestly think it's just like I'm in that stage of life where not that I don't care, but like also I don't care. Like I don't care if people want to judge me for having to go on a diet, great. But honestly, what I found is most of the people are completely relating with me too. They're like, oh my God, yes, I've been the same way, kind of up and down my whole adult life or whatever. And because again, it just makes so much sense. Like that, again, the science behind it all. And my body, although it may look different than my friend, like I might even after this weight loss, still be heavier than my friend who wants to start this program. But for her, like, she's starting at a point where she's not comfortable in her body, right? So I feel like all of our bodies, though, are the same, right? On the inside, and we all operate the same way. So again, if it works for me, it can work for anybody. And I think that's the difference too. Like, it doesn't matter where you're starting, big, tall, small, doesn't matter. And that's kind of the cool thing too. About this particular program, I feel. So
Awesome. I feel like it sounds like, and this is again why I am a crazy person about this. It's like, I feel like what you're sharing is almost like that you've kind of like found the key, or like you've found something that works regardless, despite, age obstacles and all this stuff. And that really is like a good word to share. And I love it that, yes, like that there's like logic and science like around it. It's just based on how we work. So anyway, that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that I liked, and I meant to mention earlier, talking about like some of your other clients, is seeing how many of them have maintained it for so long. I mean, I think you had one client where she was interviewed, she's been doing it for 6 years or something. Like, that's incredible. Like, that to me is such a testament to this program and what it can do. And because so rarely do you see that with more of the like fad diets, right? Like, great, it worked for 6 months. And then the minute you kind of remotely strayed, forget it, like all the weight came back on. So I think that was super encouraging too, seeing that, even Brooke, I think by the time I kind of initially thought, she had already been like a year and a half into it or something. And so that was great to see that, like, oh, she's sustaining this. Like, she did the program and now she's been sustaining it for this long. Like, that's huge, again, especially at our ages, I think too. Like, you don't hear that as often. So that was a huge like seller for me too, so.
That makes sense. And I'll also just say, like, not that you're asking, but I think the thing, what one thing that makes this possible is that like this configuration gets more fully established. Like, you just get better at doing this. Like, your metabolism just kind of keeps like increasing or like staying at a very high level. It's like the nature of the fuel that you're burning creates more, I need to talk about this more brown fat. Like, it makes our white fat, which is notoriously, it's just harder. It's hard for people to lose weight, right? Like, and that's because white fat is kind of more locked down, but we make it beige, like we make it more brown, which produces heat, which is wasteful for energy. So it's like, just like what you're choosing to eat, like all of the things that you've done, all the things that you're doing, it's like it just keeps improving the situation that would be ideal for everybody. And so I love it that you know, I think that uh it's, again, it's a process. There's a structure, there's a technique to things. And then it's like, and then you can deviate more. Like, you can, you can do things that is like, well, that wasn't intended at all, but I happen to have wine and babka, and I didn't really, plan it, but we can weather that without. And I just think that that grace, that and it's like, the more we invest, the more wiggle room we get. And I just feel like that's like, just again, just such a great like payoff. And like you said before, that kind of like, it wasn't ever worth it to like throw in the towel, or to, kind of make an excuse, because it's like you're getting all these rewards over here. And it, like, for the long term, they just keep accumulating, especially with health as well. And so it's like, that's awesome that that stood out to you. Yeah, I think it's a fabulous thing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Gretchen, so what I like to do at the end is kind of just talk about like numbers, like where we started, where we are now. And again, I feel like uh there have been some fat burners that have like lost a good amount of weight quickly, but I will just say, like, you're in the like you are in the top like 10%, 1%. Like, just again, I know I made a video that was like anonymous, but specifically about you in terms of like your progress has just been so steady. And I feel like because you've kind of done everything right. And I feel like that is a testament to your focus and your commitment to
Mhm.
yourself. So I just feel like you've like knocked it out of the park, like in every way.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, again, I think it all goes back to like, I was so ready, like it just, like anything in life, right? You can't force somebody to do something until they're ready. And I just knew I was ready. And again, just, yeah, focused, determined, to stick with it and see it through. And yeah, super, super happy with the results. And, I'm not done yet, but yeah, this has been amazing.
I
Yeah,
love it.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, Gretchen, take me back. So, I
Hmm.
know we started July 11th.
Yes,
And so, Gretchen, you are 49.
I am.
And Gretchen, how tall are you?
I'm like 5'8.5".
Nice. And Gretchen, may I ask how much you weighed when you began?
Sure. It was 229.3 to be
Mhm.
exact.
Mhm. Um, and where, so today is the 29th
Hmm.
of October. And may I ask how much you weigh now?
Sure. I am 183.8.
Nice. And so is that like 45 only because I have these other numbers from like,
It's like exactly 45.5. Yeah. So 45 and a half. Yeah. Mhm.
so 45 and a half pounds in, it was 14 and a half weeks on the 21st
So 50, yeah, it's like 15 and a half weeks, I think, at this point.
and 15 and a half weeks.
Mhm.
And Gretchen, I'll just I'll like shout about this in a second, but like, do you also have your has your clothes sizing changed as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was probably like right around a 16 when I started. Like, I mean, I think I still had some 14s that I was like squeezing into, that probably were stretched out. But really, if I'm being honest, I was probably more comfortably at a 16 when we started, and now I'm like at a loose 12, I would say.
Amazing.
Yeah, even some things like, I mean, I just bought some shirts that were mediums. Like it's been forever since I bought, like usually I
Uh,
was extra large, for everything just to be, and even that sometimes I'd get it home and be like, oh, it's a little tight. Um, so yeah, that's been kind of nice to,
Amazing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And so I think also like when we first started, I was remembering this earlier today. I'm like, I feel like when I asked you, so typically when I have a like introductory conversation, I ask people where they are and where they'd like to go.
Yeah.
Um, and even in what by what time, like what would
Yes.
make you feel successful.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I just, like feeling better was definitely, a goal. I think I did have a 175, I think was
Yep.
my goal.
Yep.
But I was also looking at it as because we're doing a vacation at Christmas time. So
Yep.
I remember talking about like I'd love to be at that goal by Christmas.
Yep.
Um, and now here I am less than 10 pounds from my goal and it's, end of October. So I feel like I am going to reach that long before Christmas, which
Yep.
is great.
Yep.
So just the speed at which, yeah, I was able to drop the weight was amazing. And so much so that, and I picked that number, the 175, is because that's again where I know I've been in the past and I
Yep.
felt good in
Yep.
my own skin and my body felt good. And it also felt like a weight that was, sustainable, right? Like not like again, like if I go back to those days when I was doing crazy exercising and eating very little, I was probably about 148, 150, which okay, great. I was pretty thin for my frame at that time, but again, not sustainable, without continuing all of that crazy stuff, or at least I thought so at the time.
Yep.
But yeah, so I always knew like, okay, 175 is usually like where I can hover and feel good in my clothes and all that kind of stuff. But now that I'm as close as I am to my original goal, I have definitely decided to, kind of bump that a little bit and now want to shoot for closer to like 160. So another 15 pounds basically. And I feel like, and you were helpful in kind of like factoring that all out for me. And like, actually, like if you stay on the same pace you've been on, you could potentially see that by Christmas, by the end of the calendar year, essentially. So crazy to even wrap my head around to think that now, like I might be, yeah, 15 pounds more than I initially thought I would be, by that same time. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of my goal now, I think is 160. So let's see.
Amazing. That's actually, so I believe it's like 24 pounds
More
remain.
to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds right.
With like just over 2 months.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
So.
that sounds thrilling. And I love that, I'll say this also a lot of times when people talk about what they might wish for, often they are very conservative.
Mm.
And because it's like, man, like this has felt so far away. And so I love that you're like, well, hey, like I'm almost there.
Right. Why
Um,
stop now? Like,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's kind of my mentality too, is that, yeah, it's just, it's easy and, it's still coming off and yeah, why not shoot for a new goal?
totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing I'll just say that happens is some of the other interviews, I'm just like, this is like laughable. Like, just, so I like to ask for people's height because that
Hmm.
is quite important regarding
Mhm.
the weight that you will ultimately be at. Um, there should be a relationship there. And so,
Mhm.
anyway, but so there's like been a few little ladies, that are like definitely several inches shorter than you that have just talked about like just getting into these sizes that like it's surprising them. And like
Mhm.
that's the thing that I think is so awesome that it's
Mhm.
like in this mode, it's like so for so many of us, it's like I didn't expect to lose as, fast. I didn't expect to get into this. I haven't seen this in forever and or however long. And I just think like, you know, I think what will happen for you is you'll just keep losing and then you will find what feels best.
Mhm.
You'll probably hit a lowest and then you'll hover probably just a bit above that. And so
Mhm.
it's like, all right, like
Right.
you tell me.
Right.
Um, so anyway, I love it. I love that that you're just like cruising through your goal and that you've set a new one. And yeah, that what do I want to say? Clearly, like the logic in this is evident to you as to just how to keep it going. That's definitely my goal, like to create fat burners for life, for this to feel like you've got it, you've got the wiring and you understand how to navigate the world and
Mhm.
listen to your body and just keep having more of what you want, or keep understanding how to like do more of what you want and keep what you have. And so anyway, you've just been doing such a great job, Gretchen.
Thank
Excited to
you.
see these next
Thanks. Yeah.
milestones.
Yeah. For sure.
Really, really good. Well, this was great, my dear. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being agreeable to this.
My pleasure. Happy to do it.